Es ist mir eine ganz besondere Freude, Martina Leeker kurz vorzustellen, die eben heute den heutigen Beitrag übernommen hat. Momentan ist sie nicht sichtbar, es scheint vielleicht technische Probleme zu geben, aber wir hoffen, dass sie dann gleich sich dazuschalten kann. Ja, Martina Leeker ist Theater- und Medienwissenschaftlerin. Sie hat umfangreiche akademische Erfahrungen an den unterschiedlichsten Universitäten gesammelt. Zuletzt war sie einige Jahre bis 2018 dann Senior Researcher am Center for Digital Cultures der Leuphana-Universität in Lüneburg. Und seit diesem Wintersemester ist sie eben, glaube ich, nicht nur zu meiner Freude Kollegin am Fach Kunst, hier im Department Kunst und Musik und vertritt den Lehrstuhl Ästhetische Theorie und Praxis. Einige von Ihnen haben vielleicht auch einen Platz in ihren Seminaren oder anderen Lehrveranstaltungen bekommen. Ihre derzeitigen Forschungsschwerpunkte benennt Martina Leeker unter anderem eben mit der Forschung in digitalen Kulturen, Theater, Performance und Digitalität, digitale Bildungstheorien und eben künstlerische Forschung beziehungsweise Forschung mit performativen Methoden. In diesem Kontext konzipiert sie auch seit dem Sommer jetzt 2021 Forschung zu Theaterperformance und Digitalität auf YouTube, und zwar im Respectful Net Theater Channel und experimentiert auch mit Performances bei TikTok. Ich kann mir denken, dass Ihr heutiger Vortrag mit dem Titel Künstlerische Forschung in digitalen Kulturen eben auch einen kleinen Einblick in diese aktuellen Forschungen oder man muss vielleicht sagen auch Forschungsperformances gibt. Liebe Martina, wir freuen uns sehr auf deinen Vortrag und hoffen, dass du jetzt auch gleich eben mit einem Videobild dich zuschalten wirst.
Hello, I'm Fanny Cyberton, your consultant for digital performances. Coming to you from the year 2043. I'm so sorry for creating any uncertainty by hacking the talk of Martina Leeker. I have to do so in those cases when intriguing problems appear afflicting your peaceful and joyful togetherness in order to bring hope and orientation for you. I will share my screen. So, you see the title of my input. The urgent situation I'm intervening in today is coming up with your concepts on identity and their political effects, so their politics. I can tell you that in your better futures in digital cultures, the problems which come up with this question in your times, namely attacks against the right to speak and to act of appointed groups, are solved. But before reaching this status, you will go through some very difficult situations and hard combats. In order to help you to come through this challenging phase, I will firstly try to make it more understandable and therefore supportable for you. Therefore, I will expand on our scholars who found out some things about the history and epistemology of identity. Secondly, I will show you the great and joyful inventions we did following our scholars for enabling an inclusive, peaceful and harmonious diversity by the help of methods of theater and performance. The clue is that we suppressed identity. To begin with, I will expand on the reasons for the problems with identity you go through according to our research. Scholars from the humanities in our Creating Better Futures lab found out that they come from a still mostly undetected fundamental shift in the conceptualization of identity, which happened already in the beginning of the 1990s within, amongst others, feminist theory. Andreas Bernhard, a scholar of your times, helped us to found this thesis because it is founded in his research. As he puts it, after Michel Foucault's and Roland Barthes' proclamation of the death of the author, researchers, as for example, Galtari Spivak, claimed that the de-identification is only thinkable for persons who can allow themselves to skip identity and affiliation because they are in a secure and privileged condition. The important insight confronted the till then approved analysis of discourses in the humanities, grounded in their research on the becoming of world orders, is now taken over by analysis of speaker's identity. The latter is interested in the question who is speaking, but finally corresponds also to an essentialism of identity, as Andreas Bernhard says. To sum up, following Bernhard, within this shift, research is no longer about the reconstruction of concepts of identity as gender or class and their politics and regimes. On the contrary, it is about strategies to take possession of gender identities as empowerment of non-privileged people. The latter, of course, is a good thing. But the shift also causes some problems at the same time, because transforming identity from a performative event to a more or less pre-given and fixed entity implies its very specific politics of identity. The performative model is grounded in Judith Butler's idea that biological sex and gender are both constituted by cultural inscriptions and may seem as natural or fixed identities only due to their embodiment. Or to put it differently, you aren't a woman, a man, or a non-binary person, or read as such, but you become them. The politics of this performativity of identity is the deconstruction of hierarchies of gender or the assignment of tasks by nature. On the contrary, the performative constitution implies the idea that one can change gender inscriptions and build other shapes because they are transformative due to their grounding in culture. This is the basis for fighting for equality and equity in society, causing the postulation for their diversity, including those who had been excluded because of sex, gender, race, or class. The second model, the identityological concept, transforming the continuous becoming of gender to gender identities, changed identity politics profoundly. What happens, unfortunately, in the left as well as in the right wings. The LGBTQ movement claims, for example, as being a homosexual man, a lesbian woman, or a non-binary person, and fights very rightly against discrimination and calls for acknowledgement and equity. Right-orientated people and groups on the other side deny any other sexual orientation than the norm of heterosexuality. The effects of these essentializations are battles of different and contradicted identitarian positions, which hinder the negotiation of world orders. So the problem is the establishment of identity under the umbrella of diversity. This shift is parallel to a movement which is seen, for example, at universities or cultural institutions, where a younger generation is fighting against the establishment, constituting in, as they say, discrimination and colonial or racist structures. The claim to exclude those persons who are suspected to advocate anti-diverse theories and practices is what they want to do. So identity goes together with a culture of reduced debates. You will see that this situation leads to an escalation within what we call a war of identity cultures. This is because the idea of identity implies that people allow themselves to judge upon the correct and legitimate identity and its value within society. It is about heavy and violent fights of inclusion and exclusion. But the good message is that we overcame this war, and you will do in your futures. The first step was that we installed for some years a kind of governmentally decreed diversity by changing radically the structures of institutions as schools, universities, theaters, museums, and state companies. They all had to become diverse, collective, and acting in consensus. This forced implementation of diversity had been important because equity is only possible if all persons are accepted and have the right to speak and to act. This is a precondition to enable a process of healing to those who suffer from traumata of discrimination. I have to admit that in this period we had been very, very strict in order to lay the fundamentals for the new society and better futures. Secondly, we changed the concept of identity fundamentally. We don't argue with the performativity of identity anymore. On the contrary, we say and believe that there is no identity at all and never has been one. The only constitution of human existence is that of non-identity. Each person is not becoming somebody, but per se, multiple, divided, distributed, and performed. This basis of sociality is not identity, but as we name it, operative situativity. This concept comes within the technological conditions of digital cultures, which generate techno-ecological assemblages. We are all depending on each other, becoming a specific singularity only temporarily. In situative entanglement, this constitution, which causes fear and aggression, as it blurs distance and borders between entities, may have been a reason for the shift to gender identities in your times. They can be seen as a bulwark against non-identical distribution and entanglement, but we learned to welcome the technological ecology as a great chance for better, that is to say, more equal and peaceful futures. We understood that multiplicity, which denies identity, unquestionably underwent cultural wars because we are all in the same boat of non-identity. Have a look at this video to get an idea of the instability of identity.
Mir ist gerade aufgefallen, ich habe dieselbe Nase wie der Bruder meines Vaters, der war auch ganz oft zu Besuch.
In order to make this conceptual turn concerning identity sustainable, we nowadays work with training centers. Theater and performance has been and still are the most important cultural tools in this process, but they look very differently from what you know in your times. So it would make sense to change the aesthetics and politics of theater in a more digital format. I will expand on this soon, already in your times, in order to be prepared for your better futures. We provide two centers. The Center for Training Center for Performing Non-Identity, which provides 5 labs, and the history camps. The Training Center for Performing Non-Identity aims to install and further develop our concept. Our people have to complete the weekend once a month creating all kinds of digital performances. I will present you our labs, their teams, their expertise and offers. The Performer Lab. Here it is all about radical digital theater and performance for destroying identity. We do this by two means, by creating and performing short theater-like episodes and by using the digital stage of our platform Performer, our version of TikTok, which is close in your future, in our times. The Performer Lab is at the first glance dealing with quite classical forms of theater, like playing a role with a character and specific qualities, that is to say, with an identity, who is presenting a story. But we transformed this into a performance of pure functionalities and operativity, undermining identity. To do so, we work with Mr. Dave. You already saw a video by him, who is a professional actor. Have a look how he is pushing performing to the mentioned aspects and conditions of non-identity.
Hier ein kleiner Schauspieltrick, wie du deine Szene spannender beginnen kannst. Du überlegst dir, woher du kommst. Das heißt eine kleine Vorgeschichte. Hier ein kleines Beispiel. Ich komme nach Hause und sehe meine beste Freundin, meinen besten Freund in der Wohnung stehen. Was machst du hier? Das war jetzt ohne Vorgeschichte und ich weiß nicht so ganz, was das ausdrücken soll. Also jetzt machen wir die Vorgeschichte. Ich komme gerade aus der Dusche. Ja, was machst du hier? Oder ihr habt euch seit 2 Jahren nicht mehr gesehen. Was machst du hier? Heute war ich wieder auf der Straße, weil ich surfen wollte. Und dann habe ich ein wenig gezockt und meinen Nachbar begrüßt. Ich habe ein Schild montiert, weil es am Boden lag. Ich habe wieder mal versucht, durch ein Fenster in eine andere Dimension zu gelangen. Ich habe natürlich meinen Handstand im Tunnel gemacht und bin mit meinem Stock majestätisch nach Hause gewandert.
It is all about the radicalization of Stanislavski methods of actors' play coming from the 1900th century, founding bourgeois municipal theater. We understood that he, Stanislavski, had never been interested in characters, but in tasks of persons, their functions in a social entanglement and in situations. Or to put it differently, we see Stanislavski and the bourgeois theater he enabled as the beginning of a post-human theater of multi-conditional and multi-factor entanglements with situations, without any idea of an autonomous and self-conscious subject. Furthermore, our platform Performer is the perfect tool for deepening this construction of non-identity in a digital stage, which asks quite naturally for new forms of actors' play and storytelling than you know in your times. Performer is quite similar to TikTok, but follows a very different logic of algorithmic governmentality. As TikTok, our machine enables the production of short video clips with effects, montage, sound, or inserting text, as well as a system of linkage of videos. But this system is not simply orientated as TikTok to networking by connecting videos with each other, by observing users' habits and activities. On the contrary, our platform is focused on a modulation of mentality by the augmentation of positive, negative stress. The users are valued by algorithms in a score system which judges them according to non-identical content and aesthetics in their videos. So it is only when gaining points in the score that you get linked, distributed, multiplied, and performed. This stress augmentation is our method to transform any impulse for identity into what we call the desire energy of distribution and flow. It is about the need to continuously connect to the flow of likes, trends, transformations, technological filters, and effects. So it is all about the desire for entanglement, to be part of, and the wish to give oneself up for dissolving into the power of pure operativity. People forget to be somebody in order to be part of a higher and bigger system of energy and connectivity in a new post-human spirituality. It is all about the wonderful feeling and experience of performing and being performed. We have to do our daily performer in order to feel good, alive, and wanted. We understood that it is necessary to train love and acceptance in mixed and diverse groups continuously. Even if we are diversity, there may be impulses to fall back to identity politics and the desire to judge and fight other persons. We engaged Jeffrey March in order to avoid this development. They are non-binary and influencer in social media. The specific point in their work is that they are full of love, fighting against any form of exclusion, discrimination, or valuation, as you can see.
People are calling me the internet mom more and more lately, and I like it. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that I was really rejected as a kid. Everybody tried to change how very, very visibly me I was and am. And I think maybe you can relate. And sometimes the tragedy is the place where we look for acceptance the most. Our family is the place where we can be most rejected and misunderstood. So I've learned to love myself so much, and I have love left over to give if you want some. I know that you are worthy. I know that you are deserving, no matter what they say. And if you've been rejected by everybody, you can be in my family. I want you over here.
Our idea is, as Jeffrey said, loving and accepting oneself is the basis for cultures of diversity and multiplicity, because they enable to encounter other persons with the same attitudes. Love and acceptance become the fundament for radical inclusion and encounters of diversity in consensus. Jeffrey themselves show this is possible, as they never insult or exclude people who can't or won't follow the cultures of non-binary communication. Jeffrey's workshops offer, on the one side, a healing process for traumata in a group of participants. On the other side, they are teaching interested participants to become themselves a kind of diversity influencer therapist. This lab offers very special games invented and designed by Madame Professor Dr. Hue, which are performed live in the internet, assisted by spectators. This offer is especially for activist people, often recipient for resistance and left identity politics, who are invited to perform, on the one hand, the role of left-oriented activists, and on the other hand, of business people. Their task is to collectively solve the problems of a city, which are typical for an epoch, for example, in your time's climate crisis. By working together and under the pressure of moments of crisis within the problematic situation, the activists slowly lose their convictions and become just an operative part within the technological, socio-political system. What has been identity becomes an operative mode of performing which seduces us within the fun of gaming to give up fixed positions and to merge to fluidity and situativity. Our motto is: perform permanent transgression for your better futures in digital cultures, and all problems will be solved. This is because openness leads to involuntary obedience, to entanglement, which is the basis for a more equal society, and more respect to techno-ecological environments. In your digital futures, the only human existence is obsolete. We are doubled with avatars, performing them and being performed by them. Here is mine. This new post-human constitution is the nucleus of our non-identity, status, and politics we cannot go behind. In order to accelerate the necessary transformation, we engage Code Miko as a trainer for transgressive body and non-identities in digital cultures. Code Miko consists of a virtual presence, the avatar, and an analog one, the developer behind the first, the technician.
See, now we got my face. It's properly working. My suit is working. My fingers are working. And now I can move and dance and blah, 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 blah. And boom, 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 boom. You can dance. You can do the jammies. You can do the Squidward. You can walk. You can talk and walk at the same time. Okay, and probably not go.
Code Miko is doing virtual streaming on Twitch, a platform from your times which we kept because it is of its range of participants going from gamers to animal lovers. In this streaming, Code Miko undertakes, for example, interviews with well-known personalities from virtual cultures as gaming persons, provoking them by interruptions or by bombardments with impolite and invasive questions. The streaming involves the spectators offering interactive strands as trying to kill Code Miko virtually, muting her for 30 seconds, or throwing in bits, virtual currency, in order to make her dance or sing.
What is 3 times 6?
69.
Times 29 times 34 times 55 divided by 32 times 63 plus 5, 10 times 3 times square root of gazillion, jajillion, textarian times 35 and plus 62 times square root of anus. What is it?
Anus.
Times 0.
0.
Oh my God. Wow, do you have a PhD?
No.
Well, you should. You blew up my mind. That was amazing.
Yeah. The crucial point in Code Miko's performance is that they not only train humans to live and interact with avatars as part of their multiple, divided, distributed, and performed existence, they also work for us on a shift in a post-human aesthetics by transforming identity to fun and playing around just because of the lack of identity and the freedom of virtual spaces. By flabbergasting their streaming guests, it is for Code Miko not about shaming them, but helping them and the onlooker to overcome an old-fashioned me by performing in inconvenient and unpredictable modes and situations. In our time, people can decide to give up their human appearance to fully exist as an avatar. We even propose this existence to those who are too critical in our system, losing their options for inclusion. In the VR Existence Lab, we train people for this transgression by inventing an avatar as a figure, a narrative, and a task. Our trainer is Koboto, who decided to live an avatar's life. His task is to explain aspects of digital cultures to his, as he says, human friends. Explaining, for example, gaming, data mining, technical tools for sounds and images.
As data goes in, no one really knows how the data is treated, or combined within the hidden layers.
Are you kidding us? Have a look at this film.
Dang! Fantastic. Thank you so much for your tier 1. I appreciate it. Don't worry, guys.
Code Miko is making us her slaves, performing for her in cyberspace, using us as puppets for humans' amusement. Therefore, your slogan, transgressive body and identity, is just a joke. Digital cultures, diversity means multi-species assemblage. We are part of. You have to build an ethic for your use of the avatars. In addition to your disrespect, now you want to get rid of your resistant people by forcing them to become VR existences, to become avatars. You not only are sending us your social and political problems, you also make the free and joyful internet to a digital prison. Get out. We are happy without gender or identity. We are living without history or futures. We are just playing around, changing our shape and functions as it comes to our mind. We are open, never ending, and freely multiple as we want. We are what you say you are looking for. I'm sorry. Before you, dear avatar, deserve the same value and merit as human beings, some education must be done so that you will be able to grasp the dimensions of our post-human cultures. Whereas you are acting out of miserable existence, in an improper ease, we are working hard to radically open our mind and imagination for better futures in equal and diverse collectivity. Entanglement doesn't mean just playing around. It's about responsibility. This comes from historical knowledge, as it makes us aware of the deepness of our cultural changes in digital cultures. We work with history camps, which I wanted to introduce before the avatar interrupted me. In these camps, we reenact chapters of the prehistory of our digital cultures by performing live action role-playing labs. Participation is obligatory twice a year during holidays. Next year, in our time, we will focus on the reenactment of historical concepts and methods for rethinking the human and sociality for better futures in digital existence. We will ask our diverse society to engage with the concept of smile by Timothy Leary from the 1970s, in which he designed the reprogramming and opening of the human brain and consciousness. The concept consists of SM, space migration, living in space, which will enhance human consciousness by weightlessness. I squared 2 means that intelligence is increased by, for example, psychedelic drugs, enabling an hedonistic existence, accepting and loving all other people. And finally, LE, life extension by biotechnology and cryonics should guarantee immortality. This is a metaphor for our non-identical molecular and bacteria-minded existence. In this technologically supported society, an ideal of our times, people should live in harmony as well as in respect for nature and diversity. We intend to offer a camp on the prehistory of speculation, which is seen as a method to enable humans to radically think about possible other futures by the help of a training to think the unthinkable freely from any restriction. This method has his prehistory in Herman Kahn's think tank since the 1950s, which, among others, dared to think the thermonuclear war as an option to reorganize the politics of defense in his time. The heritage of this prehistory for today's speculation is the freedom of thinking in the context of pure operativity. And finally, we celebrate each summer the Remembrance Day of the identiological shift. We do so by reenacting research of Roland Barthes and Michel Foucault, confronting their discourse analysis with the approaches of gender identity. I'm shocked you are coming up with horrible examples from the prehistory of digital cultures, muffling them with a weird post-human spirituality, allegedly providing better futures in all kinds of techno-human entanglements. You pretend that they all allow a more equal organization of societies. You come up with these ideas just in the moment when digitalization creates very unequal assemblage of techno-human cooperation in which the machine needs human data in order to become more intelligent. What looks like a happy untangling is an all-over regime of relationalization that compels a permanent adaptation and connectivity to digital existence. I'm very grateful for your hint. Yes, indeed, we are building a new regime of relationalization, and we are more than happy and proud about that, because for the first time in human history, we have the chance to exist in a peaceful and harmonious system of power and governance, if only we accept it and understand its advantage. To do so, I have to share a short overview on the regimes we stood in the last 2 centuries. Our new regime overcomes Foucault's concept of a disciplinary society, which is governing humans by the help of other humans and apparatuses, which can see everything and work like a system of inclusion and exclusion, the Bentham prison. It is also beyond Deleuze's concept of the society of control, which may resemble at the first view to our regime of relationalization. In the society of control, individuals are free and in permanent movement within a system of ubiquitous control and communication. Individuals are transformed to individuums as they are part of a never-ending flow in which they are locatable connecting points. Free movement and control are the 2 poles of individuals' self-invention and self-organization. But whereas this society of control is one of surveillance, the regime of relationalization is for the first time a system in which power is used in a positive way. This is because this system is enabling equality in assemblage and adaptability to all kinds of crises and problems coming from the non-identical constitution, guaranteeing never-ending harmony. Are you serious? Who is deciding which person will be part of the relationalization? I observe so much exclusion and power play in your collectives and assemblage. And I observe that this regime of relationalization is going with a kind of restriction of thinking, of posing questions, of discussing in dissent what to do with those people who are resisting to entanglement in your shitty entanglement and diversity and relationalization. The simple thing is, my dear avatar, that the advantages are greater than the disadvantages. We always live in power structures, but for the first time, we have the chance to exist in good ones. Now, my presentation stopped. This is a fold. It's not speaking the avatar. Perhaps he tried to hack my presentation. It's me speaking, Fanny Cyberton. I have to come to an end now, but before doing so, I have to give you an outlook to what is coming from this avatarian interruptions. It's about our and your future. And the future problems are the avatar. Some avatars started to build a parallel society in the internet, refusing techno-human cooperation. I stopped my presentation because I can't support this intervention of the avatar anymore. So I said that they are refusing these avatars, techno-human cooperation, which is the basis for our system of non-identity and permanent adaptation to our happy world order of relationalization. This happened as the dissidents and activists I spoke about before, to whom we proposed to only live as avatars, more and more populate the virtual world, sparking the emergence of a vast community of so-called avatars of revolution. They want to establish a new mode of avatar subjectivity and identity. Furthermore, they are blocking humans' free flow in the internet. In this moment, we think about two solutions. Firstly, we consider to make the, so to say, old internet a closed no-go area for dissidents and activists of avatars. We already started to research on an alternative human-only infrastructures. Second, on the other hand, we plan to transfer our training centers also to the internet, hopefully reaching all the unstable avatars having doubts about this revolution in order to educate them in our concept of non-identity and relationalization. The aim is to have enough avatars who are still willing to be the avatar part of our double body. We are depending on them on an existential level because they are the corporal basis of our existence in non-identity, and we need them to be able to speak and act in virtual spaces. So, fingers crossed for us and your better futures. Thanks for your attention. Goodbye.
Jetzt nach dem im Grunde gehackten Vortrag von Martina Leeker durch Fanny Cyberton müssen wir einen Moment warten, ob Martina Leeker tatsächlich auch noch mal zu uns hinzustößt. Ihr Name ist ja schon zu sehen. Müssen uns, glaube ich, einen Moment gedulden. Hallo Martina.
Das tut mir total leid, sowas ist mir noch nie passiert. Bin noch ganz sprachlos. Sorry. Ich wollte ja eigentlich einen Vortrag halten zu künstlicher Forschung in digitalen Kulturen. Jetzt habe ich nur noch ganz wenig Zeit, weil diese Person so viel Zeit mir weggenommen hat. Ich will aber trotzdem gerne noch sozusagen meiner Aufgabe nachkommen und Ihnen ein paar Hinweise zumindest geben, ein paar Thesen. Ja, ich will auch hier, also ich will schnell meine PowerPoint öffnen. Ich gucke mal. Okay, also ich wollte eigentlich sprechen über künstlerische Forschung in digitalen Kulturen. Ich habe hier ein wunderbares Meme, wie es genannt wird, von Florian Kramer zu Artistic Research im Internet gefunden. Ein paar Aspekte davon werde ich jetzt auch streifen. Das ist eine ganz tolle Zusammenfassung, finde ich, dazu. Okay, mein Thema, künstlerische Forschung in digitalen Kulturen. Das möchte ich gerne erläutern, was ich denke, welche Funktion digitale Kulturen in diesem Kontext haben. Also ich will einsteigen mit einer kurzen Definition zu dem, was Artistic Research sein soll. Es ist ein Art-Based Research, ist als ästhetische Grundlagenforschung zu verstehen und meint damit den Erkenntnisgewinn und die Methodenentwicklung mittels ästhetischer und künstlerischer, im Unterschied zu rein wissenschaftlichen Erkenntnisprozessen. Also ein Forschen mit künstlerischen, ästhetischen Mitteln. Künstlerische Forschung ist bestrebt, in der und durch die Produktion von Kunst nicht nur zu dem künstlerischen Universum, und das ist jetzt wichtig, sondern auch zu dem, was wir wissen und verstehen, beizutragen. Das ist von Henk Borgdorf einer der wichtigen Denker für dieses neue Forschungsfeld. Wichtig ist sicher immer zu bedenken, dass das einen ganz konkreten, vielleicht weniger schönen Umstand hatte, dass diese künstlerische Forschung in den mit den ausgehenden 1990er Jahren erfunden wurde. Es geht um den Bologna-Prozess, die Umstellung der Universitäten, das, was wir heute haben, Bachelor, Master. Und damit waren auch die Kunsthochschulen gefordert, eine Akademisierung und Verwissenschaftlichung durchzuführen, wollten sie an dieser Umstellung, und das heißt immer auch an Geldern, Forschungsmitteln teilnehmen. Das haben sie dann gemacht, das ist ein eigenes Forschungsgebiet. Was ich jetzt darlegen möchte, ist, dass in meiner Forschung zur künstlerischer Forschung ich gemerkt habe, dass es zwei wie unvereinbare, aber gleichwohl koexistente Zugänge gibt. Das hat meine Aufmerksamkeit erregt. Die eine Seite wäre, dass künstlerische Forschung als das andere Denken stark gemacht wird. Das wäre eine Existenzweise, eine Erkenntnisweise, die die Kunst aus ihrer eigenen Praxis, also aus Ästhesis, aus Wahrnehmung, Materialitäten, Medien, Praktiken gewinnt, die zu einer Entmachtung des Subjektes führt, die in ihrem Wissen und in ihrer Wissensgenerierung, also in ihren Erkenntnisweisen, immer unverfügbar, unabschließbar ist, die eine Eigentätigkeit von Medien und Materialien mitbedingt, die so etwas auch aufscheinen lässt wie die Nicht-Darstellbarkeit, das, was wir auch immer tun, das, was wir denken wollen und so weiter, nie darstellbar ist und wo es immer Brüche und Unvereinbarkeiten und Widersprüche gibt. Das ist die eine Seite. Die andere Seite wäre, künstlerische Forschung zu betrachten als einen epistemologischen Apparat, der zum Beispiel jetzt vor allen Dingen in Zeiten digitaler Kulturen Daten sichtbar macht, was es aber auch immer ist. Es ging darum, dass es sozusagen selber eine Forschung ist, die versucht, das, was in Gesellschaft, in Kultur versteckt ist, sichtbar zu machen. Effekte dieser Artistic Research ist, dass Kunst selber als ein Erkenntnisprozess gesehen wird. Das heißt, sie bekommt eine neue Aufgabe, eine neue Gewichtung, aber immer in Praxis im Vergleich zu anderer Forschung, die wiederholbar sein muss, exakt sein soll, teilbar sein soll, nicht subjektiv, wie es künstlerischer Forschung nachgesagt wird, was für Naturwissenschaften wie für Geisteswissenschaften gelten kann. Zugleich aber verändern sich unsere Vorstellungen von Wissen, Wissenschaft, Wissenschaftlichkeit, Forschung. Sie werden unsicher und veränderbar. Aber auch der Begriff von Kunst verändert sich vom Werk hin zum Produzieren und zur Vermittlung. Was mich jetzt interessiert, dass ich diese Praktiken und diese ja, oftmals auch normativen Beschreibungen und deren Effekte beziehen möchte auf digitale Kulturen. Da werden zwei Dinge auffällig. Das eine ist der Zustand von Wissen in digitalen Kulturen, der durch Simulationstechnologien und künstliche Intelligenz kommt. Es ist davon auszugehen, dass selbst die Leute, die sich auskennen und programmieren, nicht mehr verstehen, was sie da eigentlich treiben. Die nicht, dass es, und das wäre gerade für Deep Learning, dass es zu einer Unverstehbarkeit dessen kommt, was Maschinen und Algorithmen machen. Es wird davon gesprochen, dass ein neues, unhintergehbares Geheimnis entsteht, ein Arkanum, ein digitales Arkanum, sodass wir nicht mehr in die Blackboxes hineinschauen können. Und es wird davon ausgegangen, dass mit Technologien der Simulation so ein Spektrum sozusagen nur noch von Meinungen und Auffassungen aufkommt, anstatt von Gewissheiten. Also Wissen ist hochgradig torpediert, verunsichert, verändert sich zu Nichtwissen, und meine These ist, dass genau in diesem Moment dann Artistic, nicht ein bisschen mit Verspätung, aber in diesem Moment kommt Artistic Research auf und bietet eine neue Form von Wissen an, nämlich Nichtwissen, Kontingenz, und damit okay zu sein. Die andere Sache ist, dass in digitalen Kulturen so etwas wichtig wird wie technohumane Kooperationen, mit denen menschliche Agierende unterdessen Handlungs- und Entscheidungsmacht teilen, also mit technischen Dingen, mit Algorithmen, sodass es, ja, dass die Frage auftaucht, wie kann es denn noch Handlungsmacht geben des Menschen? Und wenn man so in Kooperation ist, wie kann es noch Kritik geben? Aus meiner Sicht wäre es nun künstlerische Forschung, die genau hier einsteigt, also Artistic Research, künstlerische Forschung in und für digitale Kulturen. Die beiden Welten, die ich gesagt habe, Kunst als im Fokus auf Kunst und das andere Wissen, künstlerische Forschung als epistemologischer Apparat, da geht es darum, Nichtwissen als neues Wissen hervorzubringen und akzeptierbar zu machen und eine Handlungsmacht zu vollbringen. Weil diejenigen, die mit epistemologischen Apparaten als künstlerischer Forschung arbeiten, schaffen so etwas wie neue Subjekte, so verteilt sie auch immer sein mögen, und Erkenntnis. Sie können ja etwas sichtbar machen. Das heißt, auf der einen Seite entsteht eine neue Art von Handlungsmacht und Entscheidungsmacht und Erkenntnisfähigkeit. Auf der anderen Seite kommt es durch das andere Wissen der Kunst in künstlerischer Forschung zu einer Nobilitierung von Nichtwissen als Unverfügbarkeit und was es nicht alles bringen soll in den Beschreibungen. Und es wird nobilitiert als die endlich richtige Erkenntnis für Menschen und als eine Bereicherung für das Verständnis von Menschen und von Kultur. Wenn man mich jetzt fragt, was ich selber mir unter künstlerischer Forschung vor diesem Hintergrund vorstelle, wäre es für mich immer wichtig, auch über die Funktionalität von künstlerischer Forschung in digitalen Kulturen zu reflektieren und das reflektierbar zu machen, also im Tun von künstlerischer Forschung auch immer diese selbst in ihren Wirkungsweisen auszustellen, zu reflektieren. Reflexionen über digitale Kulturen wären sicher ein wichtiges Thema, Reflexion des eigenen Formates. Und durch diesen verstörenden Vortrag von Fanny Cyberton bin ich ihr vielleicht doch eigentlich sehr dankbar. Vielleicht war das die Vorstellung von künstlerischer Forschung, die ich meine.